Any addresses?
Um, so welcome, everyone. I'm Gloria Francesca Mangual, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coordinator for the Open Choice Program. And I would like to inform everyone that we are recording this for any parents that may be interested in hearing about this that weren't able to make it tonight. So if you are so inclined and do not want to appear visually on here, please turn off your camera. And if you want to remain anonymous, you could change your name on the screen. And if it doesn't really matter to you, then welcome and show us your face and your name. So on that note, this is part of a series we're doing to give parents an opportunity to hear about things that they, following a survey we sent out, expressed to us are areas that they really would like to know more about during this COVID virus time, and ways to help out with your child's education. So that's why we selected this particular issue as well as the others that are listed in Eventbrite. And on that note, I will hand it off to Carolyn Redpath.
Okay, can you make me a host so I can share my screen?
Absolutely.
Okay. We are talking about sleep tonight. And before I get started, well, I'll introduce myself. I'm Dr. Caroline Redpath. I'm the clinical director for the River Street Outreach Program, and we provide behavior analysts to school districts to work with children who are struggling in any way behaviorally. So we serve 33 school districts right now in Connecticut. I wanted to ask you all, how many of you personally are struggling with sleep right now? Anybody out there? I am too. The pandemic has affected so many people, and we know how we feel when we miss sleep, and it's even harder on our kids because they may not be realizing, what it is that's affecting their mood or their behavior or their health. So wanted to talk a little bit about how the pandemic is affecting sleep, how it affects school performance, how you can improve sleep, recognize sleep problems. Interesting, because the pandemic is new, people are doing lots of research about factors associated with the pandemic. And there was a meta-analysis, which is an overview of 44 different independent research studies about how people were sleeping during the pandemic. And it found that more than 35% of the 54,000 plus individuals that were in the study had sleep problems. So that's a third of all people are not sleeping well right now during the pandemic. And likewise, 30% of mothers noted a negative change in their children's sleep quality and a decrease in sleep duration during the pandemic. So even though we feel like we have, in some ways, a lot more time because we're stuck at home, it doesn't mean that we're using that time in a restful way. So how and why is it affecting our sleep? One is the change in schedule. Some children are sleeping more, and that can be a problem too, due to not having to rise early to meet the bus. There's not a consistent schedule, so they may be sleeping in late in the morning and then progressively going to bed later and later at night, which starts disrupting sleep rhythms. Others are losing sleep due to the perception of not having a school schedule. Why should I go to bed? I don't have to go to bed early tonight. I don't have to get up. Some have disruptive sleep due to increased anxiety about COVID. These are the kids that lay in bed at night and they think about, what's going to happen to grandma? What's going to happen to granddad? They hear something I'm afraid to go to school. What happens if one of those germs gets on me? So that's another reason that children are having a hard time getting to sleep. So some symptoms of disrupted sleep are you could have difficulty falling asleep, just lie there and toss and turn. You might fall asleep, but also have night awakenings where midnight they wake up, 2 o'clock they wake up, 3 o'clock they wake up, 4 o'clock, and you're checking the time. Another way it can affect is nightmares and sleep terrors, where they're actually getting to sleep. They're not waking up, but they're having nightmares that wake them up. And some of these are related to the anxiety about COVID. So what does good sleep look like? If we have sleep the way it should be, we can fall asleep fairly quickly in the first 15 minutes or so. We stay asleep once we go to sleep. We can wake easily in the morning. So almost wake up before an alarm clock. If we're getting enough sleep, we wake up and we feel ready to start the day. And then once we're in our day, we remain awake without being drowsy during the day. So a sign of disrupted sleep, you might think you're sleeping well at night, but if you're yawning all day long or you're drifting off to sleep, you may be having times during the night where you're waking up. Some things that can contribute to that are sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, where your body is just not getting into those deep sleep patterns. So
Caroline?
Yes.
Can I pause 1 second? We forgot to mention
Please do.
the addresses for pizza.
Oh, go for it.
Yes,
Pizza's
Gloria,
important.
so we need, what do we need? Are you there, Gloria? Let's see. Or Cassandra. I'm not super versed in what they need. Gloria, you're on mute.
Cassandra needs the person's name and their
Address.
and phone number, because the pizza place might need to call to confirm, especially if it's in a building with multiple apartments.
And I believe you want that as a private chat, right?
Right. So look for, just type the name that you see on the screen, Cassandra Lash, in the chat, and you'll only be speaking with her, so we're not all getting your information. So your name, your address, and your phone number for the pizza delivery.
And the pizza can only be delivered to a Hartford address,
Yes.
right? Isn't that?
Oh, right.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. So why do we need sleep? What happens to our body when we sleep? Our body is repairing damage that's done during the day. This is the time that our body recovers. Muscles repair, your memory consolidates. I think we've all read about, if you study right before you go to sleep, during the night, your mind kind of works on it and those memories consolidate. If you're not getting solid sleep at night, your child's not getting solid sleep, they're missing out on that opportunity to have the memory kind of stick. Hormones are released at night that control growth and appetite. Energy gets supplied to the brain and the body. So sleep is very, very important. How much sleep do we need? Children need, for an elementary school child, 10 to 12 hours of sleep. And for a teenager, 9.25 hours of sleep as an average. Some teens need more than that, some less, at least 8 hours though. And we find our teens are the ones that they're pushing the limits at night. And then if they are going into school starts earliest for teens. And it really creates a problem because they really do need that sleep. So we want to make sure when we're looking at sleep that we take the time that the child needs to get up in order to be ready in the morning and count backwards for bedtime and not the other way around. We need to make sure if it's an elementary school child and they need 12 hours of sleep and they need to leave the house at 6:30 in the morning to get to school, then they need to be going to bed at 6:30 at night. That's very early. So most children don't need to leave that early, but you need to count backwards from when, they actually need to get up in the morning. The quantity and the quality are important. So we want to do things that improve the quality of sleep, but we also want to make sure that our schedules back it up enough that they really do get the length of time they need for sleep. So some other consequences of losing sleep for children: poor concentration in school, motivation, planning and reaction time, memory impairment, can contribute to irritability and depression. I know my mood goes down when I haven't slept. I don't know about you all. Also, my level of agitation, it doesn't take nearly as much for a telemarketer to annoy me if I haven't slept as it does if I've had a good night's sleep. Decreased work performance, you're not focused, headaches, stomach aches. A lot of times that's how our kids they may not recognize that they're tired, but they may start complaining. My tummy hurts, my head hurts. An increased tendency to gain weight. Remember, those hormones are secreted at night. So losing sleep actually contributes to weight problems. Vision and perception problems, daytime sluggishness, and for those teenagers, increased risk of automobile accidents because reaction time is slowed down, alertness is slowed down, ability to attend is slowed down. So we actually put them at risk. And those students that are driving themselves to school after 4 hours of sleep are particularly at risk. Some health problems, I mentioned the weight gain can contribute to obesity. Skin problems, that's something we can latch on to with teens. They may not believe you'll be more alert and do better in school if you get enough sleep, but they might be interested in your skin will be clearer if you get enough sleep because of just concerned about personal appearance. Heart disease is made worse by lack of sleep, depression, anxiety, increased blood pressure, weakens the immune system. With COVID, it's another reason to get enough sleep right now because we don't want weakened immune systems. Decreased circulation and a shortened lifespan when we don't get enough sleep. When we look at children's behavior, children who are missing out on quality sleep, more aggression, more impulsivity, increase in the chances of them doing property damage. And you think about that, if you're irritable and your fuse is shorter because you've lost sleep, you're more likely to throw down something and break it or act out physically. So it contributes to these changes in their behavior. Increased hyperactivity as well. So what can we do about it? We want to set up consistent sleep habits, and that starts with backing up that time for bedtime so that we know we're giving them enough. We need to protect the need for sleep. And by protect it, once you figure out that time, then that needs to stay pretty much set regardless of what's going on. And I talk to a lot of parents where maybe the parents are working different shifts. So mom will think it's a good idea to keep the kids up so that they can have dinner with dad at 10 o'clock or, when he gets home. And while it's good to have quality time as a family, it's better to protect the need for sleep and find another time in the day to do a family activity if you can. It's just important to set aside that time every day. It's also important to keep the same time for sleep every night, and that includes the weekends. We think that we're doing children a favor by saying it's Friday night, you can stay up late and we'll watch movies, but the very best way to protect sleep is to keep exactly the same schedule every night. And that's because we develop sleep rhythms and they're tied to our circadian rhythms. If we can keep that rhythm going, it's much easier to keep that quality of sleep. But an erratic schedule messes up your biological clock, and it's going to make it harder that Sunday night earlier bedtime after staying up late Friday night and Saturday night is going to be very difficult because now you've thrown them into a new rhythm. So go to sleep bed at the same time every night and get up at the same time every morning. Anybody have questions? Yeah.
I just wanted to make a comment. So I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I do love our Friday nights where we stay up a little bit late, you know, and we do, and we watch movies and things like that. But I find that rhythm that they have for getting up for school, I think, oh, it's going to be Saturday, they're going to sleep in. But they don't. They still get up at the same time. And then our Saturday is kind of terrible. And so that's just as a parent, you know, and I still though give in, you know, and accept what Saturday will be like. But I think that is something that we forget about as parents, is that once they're in a sleep cycle, you know, a sleep rhythm, even if we play with one end, like it's can mess up.
And can I say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been trying for the past 5. I have a 5-year-old and a 18-month, but it's I have to fight with her to go to sleep. It's like 9. I try to put them to sleep at 8:30, and it's like 9:30, and I'm like, hello, go to sleep. And like, but they do wake up the next day at the same, like very early.
Right. We're going to talk about some ways to kind of pair that with pleasure, but it's tough. Now I have to make a confession here in talking about protecting sleep time. I was a very dishonest parent in that when my children my daughter particularly had slumber parties, she was somebody that I needed to protect sleep. I actually moved the hands on the clock in my house so that they would say, oh, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, you know, I'm getting tired, we're staying up, and, you know, really be 9 o'clock. And I would just keep moving the hands. And I never did let them, you know, stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning. They thought they did, but I was moving the hands of the clock. And it's interesting because they would fall asleep. But so a little dishonesty is okay in protecting sleep. I'll just don't like to be dishonest otherwise, but some things you can do to make it easier. No exercise, physical exercise, 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. Exercise starts getting you revved up. And a common thing that happens is kids will take their bath and then there's wild play. You know, there's chase games and there's, you know, fun and games. What you want to do is you want to start the evening, you know, start with that stuff in the afternoon and just slowly keep winding down with things getting quieter and calmer as the night goes on, rather than having that wild time at night. We all think, well, I'll let them run off some energy. Let them get it out of their system so they'll be able to go to sleep tonight. But what happens is it revs them back up. No big meals right before bedtime. You don't want to wait until 8 o'clock to have dinner and have full tummies right before bed, because the body then has to put that energy into digesting the food, and it has to increase the energy to get the food digested. You also don't want any late afternoon or evening naps. It would be better to wait and go to bed early than to take that late nap. So that's when you want to get them moving, you know, keep them awake. No caffeine afternoon. I know, you know, teenagers and these energy drinks, colas, you want to, you know, have no caffeine afternoon. There's some people that can drink it and be fine, but caffeine's not good for growing people anyway. And then wait to get into bed until you're ready to go to sleep. You don't want to hang out in your bed doing other things like studying, playing with electronics. So you don't want your child to get in bed at 5 and hang out and be on FaceTime with their friends and Zooming in bed and playing video games in bed and then turn out the lights. because what you've done is you've paired being in the bed with doing something active, and they've made an association with that. You want to do that active activity somewhere else. You want bed to only be for sleeping, maybe quiet reading, some of those wind down activities, but you don't want bed to be a play space. You don't want bed to be a space where they're interacting with other people, electronically.
So Caroline, on that note, for kids that play in their bedrooms or have video games in their bedrooms, would you recommend like a gaming chair or a
Yes.
chair outside of bed?
Exactly. Thank you. Something where they're not associating being on top of that mattress and that pillow with being awake and doing activities, because then their brain will associate that and it'll be even harder to wind down. For those kids that are having anxiety, or for you, if you're having anxiety, I know for me, the beginning of the pandemic, I would lie in bed and I would just imagine COVID germs floating around outside. And, I was worried about relatives and worried about work, and help them put their worries aside before going to bed. One thing that's helpful is keep a pad of paper by the bed, and I would write down, these are things I'm worried about. I'm going to put them aside. I'm going to take them out of my brain and I'm going to stick them in here, and I'll deal with them tomorrow. And it sounds simplistic, but I'm going to put them over here. I'm not going to forget about it. I'm going to look into it. I'm gonna table it for now. Something else I had to do is avoid watching gloom and doom news right before bedtime. And for our kids, if they're hearing it, CNN is running and, they're talking about the hundreds of thousands of people who've died. Our kids are hearing that. That's not the way to go to sleep at night. So just making sure that what they're hearing, what they're doing is not causing more anxiety. And then provide reassurance. Instead of talking about how dangerous it is, talk about how everybody is, reassure them of how we can stay safe. We are okay because we're wearing our masks, we're washing our hands, we're keeping our distance. So we are staying safe, and focus on that. So talking about how we do that wind down at night, you're going to set a predictable routine to signal the brain that it's getting ready to sleep. So you want to have the same routine every night as much as you can. And you can, decide what works for your family, but typically dinner time, bath time, story time, prayers, tuck in, good night, just that would be a sample routine. You might include laying out the clothes for the next day. Whatever your routine is with your kids, you want to make sure that stays the same, because then when that chain starts, then that child's brain is getting the message that I am moving towards going to sleep, that this is the routine every night. Mom and dad follow this routine. I know after this happens, this happens. I get my jammies on, we're going to have a story. After the story, they're going to tuck me in, the lights are going to go out, and I'm going to go to sleep. Having the bath or shower at night helps, because a warm bath helps them relax, but it also raises their body temperature a little bit, and then they get under the covers and the body temperature lowers as they go to sleep, and that actually helps promote sleep, to have that change in temperature. I know a lot of people like taking the shower in the morning to kind of wake them up, but if you're having trouble getting them to relax at night, a warm bath at night can help. I mentioned not doing homework in the bed. keep the bedroom temperature cool, not cold, but cool. You don't want them to be hot at night because you want that temperature to drop some. You can play soft music. Some kids are really sensitive to sound and they can hear people talking in the other rooms. If you have babies in the house, babies can, disrupt older kids' sleep. So playing soft music, or some people just play the static on the TV, kind of the white noise, just to block out other noise. You want to turn off all electronics at least an hour before bedtime. And I wanted to talk a little bit about blue light. Blue light is the kind of light that the television, the screens, your laptop screen, video game screens, energy saving lighting emits. All of those things increase our exposure to blue light. Blue light throws off circadian rhythms. Blue light actually increases your mood, your reaction time, and your attention. So the blue light you get in the daytime revs you up, but at night it disrupts your sleep. So if they're on electronics at night, they're getting a steady dose of that blue light, and it actually suppresses the natural melatonin in the body, which then suppresses the body's need to go to sleep. So if you can get them to turn off the electronics, and that includes phones, video games, TVs, and do those other things, you're going to work much more towards being able to go to sleep easily. Madden's research found that 82% of adolescents had a phone or tablet in their bedroom, and 74% had internet access. That disrupts sleep. Just having the phone in the bedroom, every time there's a notification ding, can disrupt adolescent's sleep. Kids checking to see if anybody's text messaged them, checking to see if somebody's called them back, disrupts it, not to mention that it puts off light. Television watching directly before sleep led to delayed sleep. Video games before bed were found to lead to poor sleep quality and lower cognitive ability the next day. So these are all, really a big deal. One thing that you can do is use sleep dependencies, and these are objects that signal sleep. So we think of little children using them, but older children or even adults can use them as well. A special pillow. I sleep on this little thin flat pillow. That signals sleep to me, and I can sleep much better on that little thin flat pillow than I can sleep on a thick hotel pillow if I'm traveling. Some people have had blankets. Some kids are blanket kids, but those objects signal sleep. Stuffed animal, I mentioned sound machines or white noise machines. I have a tape of rain, of storm sounds when I can't sleep. That signals sleep to me. I always can fall asleep when it's raining outside. All of those can help to signal the brain to go to sleep. The nice thing is they don't, as a parent, require your presence. They're easily available, they're transportable, and the child can manage them. So it's not mommy has to lie down with me for me to go to sleep. It's, the availability of something else that signals sleep. Make sure the room is dark. You want to, again, light disrupts sleep. So even if you're going in after they first fall asleep and turning the lights out, that will help them stay asleep. Change the sheets in the pillowcase at least once a week. A cool, clean, straight pillowcase and sheet make it easier to fall asleep. I know how I feel right after I've changed the sheets and I get in the bed. It just feels different. It feels good. For younger children, move their favorite toys out of sight, even put them to sleep for the night. You know, our kids think, oh, such a Billy Bear wants to play with me. No, Billy Bear, you know, he's turned around, he's asleep tonight. Can help them from getting distracted. Anybody have any questions on that? Yenny, did that help at all about a routine?
Yes, thank you. I
Good.
think I think the TV, like you say, like an hour will work. Because usually around this time there's a show. And I'm telling my husband now, like, hey, that TV right now, we should be shutting it off.
There you go. Right. If you have the ability to watch a show on delay, you know, if it's their favorite show, you know, that's a good
They give it at 7 o'clock.
right, right.
But
If-
yeah,
If they can't fall asleep, or if you can't fall asleep, try for 30 minutes. If they can't go to sleep in 30 minutes, have them get up and do something else in another location. And again, that's because you don't want to practice lying there awake. You don't want to practice having that signal that you're awake doing other things. So by doing something in another location, I mean something calm, quiet, boring, you know, not get up and play videos, not get up and watch a favorite TV show, because you don't want to compete. Somebody has their mic on. Thank you. You want it, they could look at a picture book or read a chapter book in a chair. You want them to want to go back to bed. So you don't want it to be like this engrossing activity or something exciting, but you also don't want them to practice lying there wide awake. You can also try, you don't want a big meal before bed, but you can try a small protein, calcium, high tryptophan combo snack. What works well is a mozzarella, like a cheese stick, string cheese stick wrapped with a piece of deli turkey. It gives that protein calcium boost. The tryptophan in the turkey has that Thanksgiving sluggishness about it. So that, you know, like after having a Thanksgiving turkey meal, you're a little bit sleepy. There's no risk to it. It's just, you know, protein and calcium, so it won't hurt them, but it might help make them drowsy. Worrying about not sleeping can make it harder, so try not to focus on that. Again, don't have them get up and use electronics. Try reading, listening to music, again, something boring. You can also try herbal tea. Some kids like something warm in their tummy, a glass of warm milk. Just have them try to remain quiet. Whoops. There we go. Okay. If you've got a really stubborn sleep problem, you may need to, you know, go further and talk to the pediatrician, but these are some things to try first. Add vigorous exercise earlier in the day. Bump up their level of physical activity before dinner. This will help them fall asleep more easily. That's the same, what I'm saying works for the kids, works for us too. Falling asleep requires us to have a period of a quiet body. I mentioned keeping the cell phone away so that they're not wanting to check the alerts. Keeping the TV or radio on in the room or nearby keeps us half listening and prevents us from getting quiet. So making sure they can't hear any of that. And then you've got to look at what other reinforcers are available at night that are competing with sleep. So you want to make sure that you have ended access to things like the video gaming. You know, if it's in their room, and you aren't checking on them, you know, are they getting up during the night and playing video games? You may have to, you know, take it out, turn it off. I actually disconnected the cable from my house at one point because I wanted to make sure that that wasn't happening. The same with chatting online. So you want to make sure that sleep is more valuable to them than other things they can be getting into at night.
Caroline, there's a couple questions in the chat
Oh,
box.
good. Okay, can you tell me?
Yeah. What about melatonin, pillow mist, or a diffuser?
Okay. Melatonin, I'd talk to your pediatrician before you use it, but melatonin is a substance that's naturally produced in the body. It can be depleted by the blue light and, you know, just from other things. So a supplement of melatonin can help, but I would talk to your pediatrician. They come in 5 milligram, 10 milligram tablets, 2 milligrams. You'd want to, you know, find out what your pediatrician would recommend. You'd also want to make sure that it's not contraindicated by any other medication that your child might take. Good question. Pillow mists, they're lavender pillow sprays and lavender diffusers that some people use. I would say test it out, not at bedtime, and see what they think of the smell. My husband, I bought the lavender mist and I thought it was wonderful and he gagged. So, you know, different people react in different ways. So if you're going to be gagging, you're not going to be sleeping. But good question. Any other questions out there, Janisa?
Nope, those were the two
Okay.
in the chat right now.
Okay, you all are asking good questions. When should bedtime be scheduled? Okay, so if your child is struggling with their sleep, putting them to bed earlier. So let's say they're not going to bed they need to be in bed at 8 o'clock. So they're missing out on sleep. So now you're going to put them to bed at 7. Well, that actually doesn't work. Putting them to bed earlier will actually make them lie there and practice being awake and not being able to sleep for a longer period of time. So if they're having a serious trouble going to sleep, you're going to actually put them to bed later, but you're going to start it on a Friday night. You're going to just take just slightly later than when they fell asleep the previous night. You want to reset that clock by making them sleepy, by pairing going to sleep with being in bed, and then gradually transition over the next couple of days, move it 15 minutes earlier and 15 minutes earlier, so that they're pairing being asleep with being in bed. Okay. What's a sleep disorder versus trouble sleeping? If it's just trouble sleeping, the suggestions I gave you on sleep hygiene, the things like routine and removing the electronics and prioritizing sleep can make a real difference. There are also sleep disorders. There are kids that seizure in their sleep that can disrupt sleep, and you may not look like a seizure. There are kids that have restless leg syndrome, have narcolepsy, have sleep apnea. If sleep problems last more than 3 months, these are medical situations that need the attention of a doctor, and they'll probably order a sleep study to see if there's something else going on. And you certainly would want to look into those things before you went to any kind of medication. And I know there are parents that start with giving like Benadryl to their kids to help them go to sleep. Don't do that without talking to your doctor, without going through a careful analysis of what's happening, because it can actually make the situation worse and they can get dependent on it. It can cause problems, dry them out too much, cause other problems. So make sure you talk at that point to your doctor. And that's it. Sleep well. Other questions? That's the way I want to look in the morning. I want to be.
Carolyn, there's one in about, what about kids with ADHD?
Okay. Kids with ADHD are a little bit tricky because if they're taking medication, the medication is usually a stimulant, and you want to work with your doctor on the timing of the medication so that it's not interfering with sleep. So they can split doses, they can work with you, but they need to know that it's, what's happening with the sleep pattern. But kids with ADHD are particularly affected by that blue light situation, and also by getting them revved up. And sometimes they can get hyper by being tired. They go over the edge, and they're exhausted, but they're hard to calm down to go to bed. So you need to protect their sleep even more. You need to do that wind down even more to keep everything calm, just to signal that it's time to let it go. Often, once those kids do go to sleep, they're hard sleepers because they're worn out. Other questions?
Oh, 1 second, Caroline.
Okay.
One question in the comment box. My daughter tells me that her eyes sometimes hurt and strain even when she feels she's had a good sleep. What would you recommend about the straining?
I would get an eye exam. I would, talk to your pediatrician about a vision screen. Because if she's saying that they hurt and strain, it may be that she's trying so hard to focus.
I have a question.
Yes.
There was something in the news today about people who use mouth guards because they grind their teeth at night, and how
Yes.
maybe that's not such a good thing to use, and maybe, I don't know, you should go to therapy or something. I don't know what they were suggesting instead of a mouth guard. I use a mouth guard every night.
Right. Well, some people clench and crack their teeth at night. That's kind of a special situation. I don't know. I mean, it could disrupt sleep like anything else. Kids with braces, it's gonna make you not be able to go to sleep as easily until you're used to them.
Yeah. My jaws don't hurt anymore since I've been using it. So I like my mouth guard.
There you go.
So I have a quick poll that I'd like to give out, so that we're trying to, so a foundation has funded this, and they want to know, how effective were the workshops, and what did people learn? So I might need some tech help on this in terms of how to get the poll up. Let's see if
So the polling at the bottom. Oh, you know what? You need to take host back, or let me give you host back.
Okay. Yeah.
How do I do that?
So if you go to those 3 dots in my picture, I think I have the host.
I'm not getting,